Today we've got a head-to-head Ruger handgun battle. The OG old school Ruger P90 going up against the much more modern Ruger American. Now, I want to start things out here by putting some rounds downrange on steel with both of these. Just talking about them, not really a first impression, obviously, because I've owned these for a while. Then we'll come back, we'll take a closer look, then we'll shoot for some groups. All right, eye pro, ear pro time, and today for ear pro, running the pro here, Bluetooth rechargeable muffs. Gonna start out with the P90 here. Now, the P90 is double action trigger pull, and we're not gonna use that double action trigger pull today because we're talking about striker fire versus, or striker fire, I should say, in the American versus hammer fire in the P90. So, it being hammer fire, this thing is going to do pretty well as far as the trigger pull goes. It's got some travel there. Definitely got some take up. The reset is a little spongy. It's pretty common for, an old school hammer fired handgun like this. It is definitely not your typical single action 1911, but P90s are a tank, and you can see as far as handling that 45 ACP, it handles it pretty well. Now, I am a pretty big fan of 45 ACP in a handgun. A lot of people think that big honking cartridge, that it's got a lot of recoil, and while it is a heavy projectile, it's a big cartridge, and it does have some recoil, it's also slow. And so the recoil is more of a steady push, I guess you could say. It's just, I don't know, it's more fluid than some of your sharper recoils from, let's say, some of your Magnum cartridges, like, for example, 357 Magnum. All right, and now let's put some on steel with the Ruger American here. And right away, aesthetically, it looks good. As far as the grip and the feel on this thing, it looks good. It feels good. The issue is going to get into this trigger. And it's got a little bit of take up, nothing crazy. But the reset is a little better too. But being striker fire, it's not near as crisp, I guess you could say, as that P90. And there it is. I think as far as recoil wise as well, being, the polymer on this thing, it also doesn't really handle it quite like that P90, but it looks good and it feels good. Let's take a closer look here at the P90 and the American. Now, both of these Ruger, both of these are going to be chambered in 45 ACP, but that's about where the similarities, I think, are going to end. Length and height, pretty close to the same, I think, on these as well. Of course, weight, we'll talk about that in a minute. The P90 is going to come in a little heavier, and the P90 also coming in, I think, a little bit wider as well. Now, as far as the old school P90 goes, you're talking about a single action, double action. You do have that double action trigger pull right there, you can see. And once that hammers back, of course, you go into single action, where with the striker fire not being hammer fired like the P90, the American here is going to be just that single action trigger pull. And so one thing that I did notice, and I have noticed pretty quickly, is anytime you've got that hammer fired, the single action is typically going to be a little better trigger pull for you. Now, as far as magazines, single stack magazine on the P90, on the OG old school there, whereas the American does have that double stack magazine. Makes a pretty big difference there. A whole lot of polymer in the American here, a whole lot of polymer in the American. Whereas with the P90 here, you are a whole lot of alloy. So now, being a hammer fire, didn't mention this earlier, the P90 does have the decocker no safety, as you can tell. Your safety is to drop that hammer. Whereas with the American, you've got your little dingus here, and then you've got all of your other accoutrement internally, as far as passive safeties. Other thing, being more modern, you can see we got the rail on the American. We've got ambi controls all over the place, from the mag release to the slide stop, the slide release there. Also, interchangeable back straps on this. Now with the P90, grip panels are replaceable. You can change those out if you prefer, and you'll notice I've got the Hogue wraparounds on this particular P90. So now let's get a target out to 25 yards. Let's take both of these. We'll start with the P90. We'll finish up with the American. Let's shoot for a 5-round group and see how they do. All right, a little 25-yard accuracy here with the Ruger P90. Now, we're going to run this one all in single action, just to kind of keep everything fair and above board. Here we go. And final round. Now, let's go see how she did. All right, the OG P90 right here. Put off a pretty good showing with the group there at 25 yards. So let's see now what the new kid on the block can do. All right, a little accuracy with the new kid on the block here, the Ruger American. See what she will do. Here we go. Last round. All right, let's go check that target. Well, well, well. I guess newer is not always better. There's the group from the Ruger American, a little bit bigger than that P90. So give a check mark to old school today, I suppose. But in all seriousness, that is not a terrible group. We'll definitely take that one all day, every day at 25 yards. By the way, we were running 230 grain FMJ Blazer ammunition today, just so that you know. But I'm curious to know your thoughts. Jump down in a comment below and let me know, given you having to choose between, you can only have one, the Ruger P90 or the more modern Ruger American right here, which one do you go with? I will give it to the American that it feels good and it looks good until you start pulling the trigger. And then at the point that you start pulling the trigger on the thing, the single action in the P90, my opinion, is better. And as far as handling the recoil of the 45 ACP, it's better. Hey, it's my personal preference as well, but the old school iconic look of the P90, I don't know, there's just something cool about it. Whereas the more modern design of the American, there's just not really anything classic or OG about it. So I would never personally give up my P90 for a Ruger American.